Okay, looks like I'm live. Another fine day in the neighborhood. Well, I guess as good as it can be, considering the circumstances. If you've noticed the title for this stream, yeah, looking on the positive or the bright side of things is being a little bit too optimistic at this point, because it does seem or appear that getting out from underneath these lockdowns might come with a lot of mandated measures, which is not going to go over very well for at least a small portion of the Canadian population. I'm sure there are a lot of the masses, a lot of the sheeple that'll go along with whatever they're told to do, but there's definitely going to be at least a small segment of the population in this country who will not necessarily be on board with these kind of mandated measures that they're kind of being alluded to at this point in time. All right, let me share to the social media pages here. Oh, by the way, too, yeah, this is going out and broadcast on Periscope now. So if anyone's on Periscope, you can check out the streams there as well. That's, I believe that's Twitter's more or less embedded video streaming service. And I'm really looking forward to Andrew Torban was mentioning, he's the guy that created Gab, an alternative, a free speech alternative to Twitter. And he was mentioning that they're coming up and they should have it out by next week, their own streaming service as well. So it's great to see that there's some new options coming to light because, yeah, based on what that Susan, the YouTube CEO, was saying the other day and what I was referencing in my stream, yeah, a lot of us are having our voices limited and restricted and suppressed in some way. And I mean, you just can't help it. I mean, I can't help but realize that that's got to be the case. I mean, come on. Like I say, my stream from yesterday, 100 and not even 200 views. That's the thing I keep saying, though. If they think they're going to discourage me from doing what I'm doing, well, they just don't know me very well. They just don't know me very well, which tells them that their algorithms don't work nearly as well as they hope. Right? And their manipulation techniques are failing as well. So all there's that. Okay, now that they're all up on my social media pages, close them up. Hey, what's going on, Rika? Right on. Nice to see you in the chat. Canadian Caveman, right on. Canadian Caveman. Nice to see Canadian Caveman from BC. Nice to see some West Coasters joining the stream. Eugene Harder, right on. Looks like a couple of Canadian Cavemen and Eugene Harder. I'm not familiar with those two, so good to see there's some new peeps joining the stream as well. Apparently coming from Ontario. Beauty Day, good afternoon. Let's shear some sheep. Yeah. Oh, there's lots of them, right? You're definitely going to get your exercise in Canada if you want to shear some sheep because, wow. Yeah, they're everywhere, folks. Look to your left, look to your right. They're just about everywhere in this country. It's a sad, sad thing. That's unfortunate, right? Hey, what's going on, Howard? Howard G. Hello from Mississauga. Richard the Observer. All right. What's going on, Richard the Observer? I see you're all prepped up with your, looks like, what's that, an N95 mask? Right on. Practicing some safety there, are you? Hey, I see Spartan Chuckles. Haven't seen you in the last little bit. Nice to see you in the chat as well. And actually, Spartan is a member of the Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel. Thank you once again for your membership, Spartan Chuckles, and Ontario. From Ontario, I should say. I've been following you for a long time now. Really good to hear that, Canadian Caveman. Like I say, maybe it's just that, well, what it is, yeah, it's just that I haven't actually seen you comment in the chat. So anyways, appreciate that. Like I say, and there's some stuff I definitely want to get to. I've got the first thing I'm going to be doing, and I got to try to remember when I do this to turn my freaking mic back to single use on this side as soon as I'm done, because I'm going to have to flip it over because there's an audio section on a CBC radio program that I want to cover first and foremost. As soon as like I say, I've just checked to make sure there's a few people in the stream, and it looks like, yeah, there's a few streaming in already. So maybe I'll just start now. Let me take that off. But yeah, this is like I say, based on the kind of rhetoric, actually, I got one I will cover first and foremost because it's basically along the same line. But once again, it's just another example where the media in this country are already, that's how you kind of know, like, it's the thing, these folks, because it's just their job, right? They're not putting in quite the amount of effort that I would to be paying attention, right? Or stepping back far enough to get a macro perspective. Like, they're in the belly of the beast, right? But you can see just based on how the rhetoric's coming out, how the media is putting forth the story, especially the CBC, Canada's propagandist broadcast corporation, or communist broadcast corporation, basically. Yeah, the media mouthpiece, the propagandist arm of the Liberal government currently, but basically anyone that'll play along with the that leftist or collectivist narrative, right? But once again, even when they're covering it, it's hilarious because we all know, that's the thing. It's like, do they realize that a lot of us Canadians actually know, even though there are a lot that agree with it, surely they must know that people in Canada know that there's some very authoritarian measures put in place to restrict and limit our movements, right? Or to curtail our liberties. But they always, with one thing you can count on CBC, is they'll look the other way when it comes to what's happening in their own backyard. And why that is because, listen, they function off the wealth income redistribution model. So already very immoral people. So they don't, like I say, they don't want to really, peer back or pull back the shades and look behind it. They prefer to remain in their blissful ignorance, or at least go along and pretending that they're somehow benevolent, right? But anyways, like I say, let's get to this first article that I thought was quite hilarious, because like I say, they don't like really talking about what's happening in this country. That's the thing. It's Canada's national broadcaster, right? It's Canada's. It's Canada's. Like, taxpayer funded, although it's not like taxpayers, choose to opt in, right? No, we're forced to. Just like taxation is theft. Well, CBC is a recipient of that theft, right? But they do really, really love to point out the authoritarian measures being implemented by other governments or regimes around the world. Like I say, completely avoid or overlook what's happening in their own backyard, which is, they're supposed to be there to be adversarial to government and to hold government to account and properly inform the citizenry. But no, that's not what they're doing. They're basically doing double duty in terms of propagandizing and being out there to be the like the PR campaign where you're I'm trying to think of the proper wording for it there, but basically getting out front and laying political cover for the kind of authoritarian measures that the Trudeau Liberals are planning. Have already, well, not just the Liberals, but the provinces as well. But the Trudeau Liberals, in terms of the federal strategy and what he would love to do, like I say, CBC is busy out there trying to protect and defend them so that Canadians are, a little bit laid back or at ease when it does come to exist. Anyway, so this under the politics section, an analysis on ill wind. The pandemic has given states political cover for controversial acts. From China to Israel, an unprecedented emergency is presenting openings some politicians are keen to exploit. It's being reported by Evan Dyer, April 23rd, 2020. Calamity, as anyone who ever bought real estate during a recession knows, sometimes presents opportunities. For many governments, the pandemic crisis presents the perfect cover for carrying out actions they could only dream of before the virus struck. Around the time people first started falling ill in Hubei province, the Communist Party of China was wrestling with the difficult question of how to respond to voters in Hong Kong massively rejecting pro-Beijing candidates in local elections. Early in the new year, as news of the COVID-19 epidemic in Wuhan began to spread, China replaced its top official in Hong Kong with Liao Hining, who has a reputation as a party enforcer. On Saturday, he made his move, arresting 15 major pro-democracy figures, including Martin Lee, the former colony's octogenarian father of democracy. But once again, as if Trudeau and his leftist minions, I mean, think about all the stories and articles I've referenced in my past videos. Was it that Karina Gold and some of those other lackeys of the Trudeau Liberals that, like I say, ever since Trudeau come to power in 2015, they've been salivating in the bit and constantly chipping away and eroding our civil liberties based on all these acts of legislation or, basically now not just having the CBC as a propagandist arm of the government, but forcing taxpayers or the unborn at this point in time to bail out the rest of the media industry in this country to basically put them under the wing of big government and become their one. And they're seeing it's working out great because most of the media outlets, there's a few contributors to a couple outlets that are trying to hold government to account, but doing a job, I'd say better than most, right? But the rest that represents the most in this country are just basically just political propagandists for the government. And yeah, of course they are. They're getting their paycheck from the government, right? Not too many people are willing to bite the hand that feeds them, as I've said so many times before. So while they're talking about how these political opportunists of the Communist Party in China are taking advantage of this Wuhan to implement some of the measures that they were probably wanting to do prior, right? But now they're taking advantage of the virus to do it instead. Well, that's the exact same thing that the Trudeau Liberals are doing, right? Or some of the other governments in this country, because that's the thing. I don't play the left-right politics. Whether it's a left government or a right government, anyone that's practicing authoritarian measures or curtailing the movement of people that are supposed to be free in this country. Like I say, it's not that I'm against, practicing social distancing and all that, but as we've seen time and time again, you don't have to lock down your entire country or destroy your entire economy to try to battle this coronavirus outbreak. And Sweden is leading example of that and proven to be quite effective, which is actually a great thing to see because it will definitely show that contrast for the kind of authoritarian measures that's taking place in this country. Anyway, so like I said, I just wanted to cover that. Is there much more? Do I want to really distracted world? So basically, it's just the same thing. And it's like the one I was showing the other day where they're going to talk about particular countries. So, right, like China, the communist country of China, right? Then they'll go down and talk about Orban in Hungary because he's a right-winger, right? Because, of course, CBC is going to want to try to point out countries that have right-wing governments and say they're the bad people, right? Forget about looking in their own backyard. No, they're too busy worried about, pushing back against what's happening in Hungary. Whereas like, hey, there's lots of countries around Hungary and Europe and media outlets that they can cover that CBC. How about, like I said, how about you worry about your own backyard? Right? But no, like I say, this is misdirection. And then, of course, Italy, right? Because isn't the guy in Italy kind of a right winger as well? So, got to hate on the right wingers, right? Because it's a leftist media outlets. So anyways, yeah, I'll get beyond that. But this was the part. So let me, like I say, I'm going to try to remember. Actually, let me check in the stream here first because I got to remember to turn this bad boy back when I am done. See who else is joining. I see Trump is a piece of shit. We're under house arrest in Canada. Yeah, right. How you like those apples? Nice knob 74. That's a hard one to pronounce there, but yeah, castration. Yeah, might as well be, right? Are there any men in that place? I know there's people that work at the CBC that identify as male, I think, right? But are there any men in the CBC news organization? I've yet to see one yet. Like I say, I have seen there are those who I recognize have like more facial hair than those who we would deem as females in this weird world today, where it's like normally we all used to understand historically it was men and women, right? But with this, now there's up to 70 different genders. But I'm just wondering, is there anyone in CBC that actually identifies as a real man? I don't know. I know they're male, right? And I'm sure they might identify as male, but right, I'm talking about men. Can we get a test of testosterone? Hey, talk about all this testing. And since, testing is part and parcel of this, can we get some testing in the CBC and see if there's actually any testosterone rolling around in the veins of some of these men or males at the very least, right? Because I don't know, it seems like it is filled with a lot of feminists, both male and female, right? Which is weird all on its own, right? Men that identify as feminists, that's already a bit of a weird thing as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, think about the very real fact that these people seemingly have no ability to exude like any kind of manliness. It's just feminists and men that basically act like feminists or are maybe the bitches for the feminists. I don't know, but there's definitely none of that. typical, I guess, what us, I don't know what they would call us, right? Toxic. Is there any toxic masculinity? I guess I'd say, because that's how the left portrays it. If you're a real man, right, and really likes to get into manly things and takes a manly position or a stance on issues, well, they call that toxic. And it looks to me that there's definitely no toxicity at the CBC in terms of that masculinity, right? Seems to be the exact opposite, which is I guess that's the only way you could function in that environment. Could you imagine a real man? Could you imagine someone like myself working at the CBC? Ooh, yeah, that wouldn't work out too well, would I? I'd be at odds with basically everyone there. But anyways, I digress. Oh, sorry, I seen that already. Oh, Trump is a piece of shit scumbag. Fact. That very well could be the case. Like I said, I don't really care about the man himself. What I care about is the fact that he's as far as Trump, what I like about Trump personally, and anyone's watched my channel would know this anyways, like, I don't really care about the man in particular, but the fact that he is at least a counter to the ruling establishment, or at least trying to counter them, right, in some way. In other areas, like, he's just continuing on, right? And especially when it comes to spending. Well, that's the thing. I guess the old saying is true. I guess they're all Keynesians now, right? Once you head down that Keynesian road, well, I guess everyone's forced into that. Not everyone, mind you, but if you want to go into politics, that's for sure. But yeah, of course, massively disappointed in the ramp up in spending and kind of ridiculous things he's doing. But at the very least, like I say, at the very least, Trump is at least countering some of these really ridiculous, outrageous far leftists, right? So, but is Trump a bit of a piece of shit or a scumbag himself? I mean, come on. Anyone that goes into those positions aren't exactly the best people you'll ever meet. So yeah, I would kind of tend to agree with you on some, but to me, it's not about, I'm an ideas kind of guy. So as far as people, like, I even had someone, I was quoting someone that they were saying it was a proper, positive, promotion of liberty. And it's like, do you not know that guy's an asshole? Someone had commented on it after. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. It's not an exact quote, but someone had, so what are you sharing that person's tweet or their Facebook post? Can't remember, like, say which one it was. It's like, well, I don't really give a shit. I agree with the sentiment of their post. So don't really care about the person, but if they're saying something that I agree with, I'll reshare it. I'll retweet it, because I don't really, like, to me, I'm all about the ideas, not necessarily. I'm not into that cult of personality kind of stuff, right? I care about ideas. That's why I'm a libertarian, a philosophical libertarian, not a political libertarian. Ideas are what matter to me. But anyways, thanks for joining the stream, AI Gaming. I really appreciate that. And if you wouldn't mind, you and anyone else is here already, if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, really would appreciate that. I don't watch or read anything to do with the CBC. Well, I can understand that, Richard the Observer, but the reason why I do is because any good strategist would know if you want to counter the enemy or anyone that you perceive is your opponent in any way, and the CBC is definitely an opponent, well, it's usually a wise idea to keep your eyes on what they're doing, and in particular, listen to what they're saying, because they're the ones that are dropping these or planting these seeds in the Canadian people's minds, right? So you definitely want to pay attention to what they're saying, and that's actually how you counteract that, right? So that's usually what I do, which is why I tend to reference a lot of CBC articles, is because I have to, at the very least, use that as a reference point to push back and counter the political rhetoric. And it works quite well, to be honest with you. And very few times that people ever tried to challenge me back, like CBC. You're never going to get anyone CBC try to actually say, oh, here, let me have a debate with Bennett, right? That's not going to happen, because that would mean they'd be on the hook for sure. And then be just a matter of me reeling them in. So I get you. But anyways, hey, Evada E, how you doing? Nice to see you in the chat. Here in Poland, masks are mandatory. Oh, they are. Well, what the hell happened? I thought Poland was going on the really big on the promotion of the Liberty Front thing, right? I kind of, in a way, I kind of get some of the reasoning behind why people are going with this, but mandating, I'd like to be. Do you not trust your, like, when the politicians are saying that they have to mandate things, that's literally saying that they don't trust their people, which, puts a pretty strained relation between the government and the people. And I mean, look, Sweden, right? Sweden seems that well, apparently, I don't know. I was hoping the culture there would be that, like, just like in Canada, I was kind of hoping that most people would just do the right thing anyways. And then, you can prevent the authoritarians to have to overreach by doing the right thing. Like, personally, myself, if I was out spend large amounts of time in close proximity with a lot of people, especially people who are vulnerable and stuff, I would want to wear a mask. I wouldn't need anyone to demand or mandate me to do that. But anyways, like I say, I don't know enough of what's going on in there now, and that's a very small amount of information. So I won't say anything negative or necessarily positive in regards to that. Although, like I say, I'm definitely, as a libertarian, not a fan of governments mandating such things, because once again, you can write something down as legislation, and yes, because it's selective enforcement. Because think about it, it's all going to come down to selective enforcement, just like speeding, right? It's illegal to go over 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, on Highway 401 in Toronto. 99% of the people, or I shouldn't say that, but the overwhelming majority of people do it. But it's just a matter of the cop, if you piss them off, if they don't like the color of your car, right, they can selectively enforce. And that's the problem with these mandates. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to have to wear the mask, or safety is now, we're all okay now because there's a mandatory measure to force everyone to wear a mask. No, because people are still not going to follow through with those mandates or orders. So that's still going to happen. But what it does give the enforcers or the state the ability to selectively enforce and start to pick off some of those people that they don't like, right? So that's my biggest problem and concern with any kind of mandates, is the fact, well, two of them is, first, it's not going to prevent bad things from happening because not everyone follows through on a mandate. And, even with criminals, it's mandated that you're not allowed to kill people, yet criminals still kill people all the time, right? But on the flip side of that, like I say, it does give these enforcers the ability to selectively enforce and pick on certain people. Only other governments are bad. Okay. Okay. Actually, did you see, Rika, did you check out? Oh, it's hilarious. There's a couple. Just check out South Park and then like the coronavirus. But oh man, leave it to Matt and Trey, right? Great job. Libertarians themselves doing a great job with that show, which it's been a long time. South Park, but yeah, they cover these issues amazing, right? And very controversial issues, but they keep the comedy heavy and the politics light enough that everyone can laugh about it, right? So left or right. That's a good thing about South Park, is even if you're a lefty, you can laugh at it, right? 90% of deaths could have been avoided if Trump didn't treat it as fake news for 6 weeks. Fact. But you do realize that Trump implemented the restrictions long before the rest of other countries. Like, I live in Canada. They were way late to the game, much later to the game than Trump. So it's like, if you're pointing the finger at Trump, right, which is fine, right? If you want to say he was late in the game, then you're saying that all the rest of the countries that came after, which they did, because when Trump was doing, you got to remember all these other countries. I know, because I live here in Canada and I listen to the media about these going on. Oh, Trump, he's a racist, he's a xenophobe by shutting down and restricting flights and all these places from China, right? Meanwhile, the rest of the countries eventually, after they were finished finger wagging and pointing out how terrible Trump was, well, they've all had to come after the fact much later and do the same thing. So it's like, I'm with you if you want to hold Trump to account and say he's terrible for waiting that 6 weeks, right? But what about China? Because before Trump, China was the one that waited. You got anything to say about China AI gaming? Because I would say that, considering this virus originated in China, and we know that the doctors and people were trying to get this information out earlier, but the Communist Party quashed that. Put the fear of the Communist Party in them and made sure that they shut their mouths up, right? And didn't let this kind of information leak out. So who was really at fault? I mean, I'm all for placing blame. If we want to lay some blame at the feet of Trump, okay, let's go with that. But let's lay the blame elsewhere where it belongs to. Can we do that? Because if we're all on board with placing blame where it genuinely belongs, which is in politicians and government, I'm for it. I'm just not going to be one of those people that are going to say, but my government's good, your government's bad. My government, no. Like I say, the only governments that I will align with are ones who aren't using mandates or restricting or infringing on our liberties. Because yeah, I'm a libertarian. So anyways, like I said, that's all I'm saying. I'm all about being consistent, right? And I don't play politics. Questioning if a politician's best interesting is for Canada, and if there aren't a white male, you're racist, sexist, instead of actually trying to give a good answer. Yeah, well, of course, that's the go-to narrative anyways these days, right? Is I see somebody's watching on Periscope. Hey, what's going on? I think you're the first one there, Otto. Nice to see you. Hey, what's going on? Or Derek, I should say. Yeah, it's Derek. Yeah, so that's good that you're checking this out on the Periscope app. I can see that on this side because, like I say, this is streaming out to Periscope and YouTube. I don't know why I'm doing it because now I'm taking away views from my YouTube. Hey, what the hell? It's not like I'm getting a whole lot to begin with, right? Anyways, let me get a few more questions answered, and then I'll get to this audio portion of the CBC radio program that, like I say, quite interesting. Trump is telling his supporters to go bowling and gambling to spread the virus and kill more Americans. Well, bowling or gambling, I mean, like I say, as long as you're practicing, I'm pretty sure he's not saying to go bowling to kill people, right? I think that's a little bit of hyperbole you got going on there, but I get the sentiment. I get the idea that you're just not a fan of Trump. I do get that, AI Gaming. I really do. Trust me, I can see that with clarity. From what I gather, masks should be more in use here to get people back to work. Plus, stop the endless handed of taxpayer dollars to unemployed and many that don't deserve it. Yeah, well said, Eugene. Well, that's what I mean. Like, there's lots of ways to practice safe measures and still allow the economy. And like I say, this is going to happen anyways. Watch, like, this is the thing about and having all these videos and streams done is because you're going to be able to go back through them and see, oh, who was really doing the critical thinking along these lines and who is really taking the proper stance or position. And like I say, it'll bear out eventually. And like I say, as I recognize, this is going to play out no matter, like I say, locking everyone down is going to prove to be the most ridiculous strategy ever. And in reality, it's not even the strategy. The political rhetoric they use for this strategy is literally that, political rhetoric. Because the reason why they're doing it is because, yeah, Canada's healthcare system, as well as a lot of healthcare systems, these socialist or quasi-socialist healthcare systems that have propped up all over the globe, were caught with their pants down and not prepared to deal with any of these things. And like I say, this was all supposed to be figured out after the original SARS outbreak back, what was it, 2003 or whatever. After that, they had 15 plus years of all these people. Well, we better make sure we got lots of PPE. We better make sure in case we ever have a future outbreak. But, you know, once it subsided and everyone just went back about their daily routines, all these hacks and governments like, hey, I'm getting my check. Who cares? Whatever. Hey, we'll worry about that later, right? Just like that Keynesian thing. They just kick that can down the road. We'll worry about that later. Well, later is now. And once again, they were all caught with their pants down. The reason why they're limiting our movement is because in case, you know, that we overwhelm the healthcare system. They basically even admitted that, which is to suggest they're not prepared for any of this stuff. It's not to protect you because look at how many people are still out there deemed essential service. So there's still lots of people that can cause, like I say, this virus, eventually, it's all going to end up to the point where you have to have some kind of herd type immunity or some kind of vaccination, which is, once again, another part of this thing that we're going to get to eventually. But you're not going keeping everybody locked down. You're going to what this is going to prove, and just like Sweden, the example that Sweden's proven is Sweden, and they're saying they're just weeks away now from basically meeting that threshold of herd immunity or immunity. And Sweden's going to be one of the countries like, okay, yeah, we suffered. You know, originally they might have had a higher rate of death, or, you know, a higher percentage of death per cases, or there might be something. But like I say, once you expand that out to what, a year, 2 years down the road, like I say, keeping Canadians locked down, eventually you got to let people out of their house eventually, right? And when you do, they're even admitting, oh, a second wave might come, a third wave. So it's like what they're doing is like they're trying to slowly peel that Band-Aid off. Well, have you ever tried to slowly peel a Band-Aid off, especially if you got a really hairy arm and it's a really sticky Band-Aid? Yeah, it hurts. And it hurts a lot longer. Whereas, yeah, if you rip that Band-Aid off real quick, the pain might be a little bit more increased because you're putting a lot more pressure as you're pulling it, right? But the pain subsides that much quicker because you've gotten over the original pain, right? So, like I say, and this is all going to prove to come to light eventually, because you're not going to prevent Canadians. It's out there now, right? The coronavirus, COVID-19, it's out there. You're not going to prevent it from spreading entirely, because every time people are allowed to go out, it's still going to pop back up again. So, like I say, what they're doing right now is just prolonging inevitable and causing massive amounts of economic harm to millions and millions of people, not to mention the moral hazards of putting millions and millions of people on the dole of government and then expecting them, which now they're being compensated at a higher rate than they would when they're working, and then expect them to want to go back to work at lower rates. Like I say, you wait and see how this pans out. Yeah, this is the experiment that's going to prove, like I say, that the cure is going to prove to be much, much worse than the virus or disease. Anyway, so like I say, let me get back out here. I'm just trying to check and see. Trump supporters drank the Kool-Aid. Now they're dying. There's lots of people dying there, AI gaming. It's not just Trump supporters, but hey, whatever. It hasn't gotten anyone back to work. What's that? It hasn't gotten anyone back. I'm not even sure what I'm replying to there. I am laughing. Canadians don't have money for anything to buy anything. Everything's still closed. Anyways, folks, like I say, I will get back. Oh, I'll say this real quick. Hey there, Jake Fillmore. Good afternoon. Anyways, like I say, let me see. Terry M. Don't you ever send pictures to Global News in your festivities during this pandemic? Uh-oh. Sounds like something might not have, something bad might have happened, did it? Anyways, like I say, let me get to this CBC radio program, and then I'll play the audio. And like I said, I got to try to remember to to turn the audio back to the single as soon as I'm done. So as you can see, anyways, let me just make sure it propped up. Yep, it's up there. So as you can see, it's from the CBC radio program As It Happens, why this American nursing assistant counter-protested the lockdown protest. So as you probably heard, and I reported on it in a past stream, is there was some protests, not just in Michigan, but a few other states. I think it was Washington State, was it Minnesota? I might be getting them wrong, but there was a few states, like I say, that the people were like, no, you know, that's the thing with the American spirit. They care about their liberties a whole lot more than most Canadians do. That's for sure. And they were out there, you know, protesting against these mandated lockdowns and the restrictions of their movement and the infringements on their liberties, and good for them for doing so, right? That's the point. Protest, right? Completely legal to protest your government. And actually, it's usually enticed and supported by those on the left. But if they don't like what you're protesting, all of a sudden they don't like protests, right? Which is so weird. It's like, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But anyways, rather than the host of this CBC show As It Happens, which obviously from CBC Radio and is definitely a leftist, no doubt about that, big government fan, obviously works for the basically a quasi arm of the or branch of the government. But rather than cover, because I listen to this thing, and rather than, that's the thing with CBC. Yeah. Don't ever expect that you're going to get both sides of the narrative or counterpoints offered to you. Nope. They want to do it. They want to do this, set this up so it's political propaganda in defense of this one protester, right? But anyways, I'm going to let you hear this because I thought it was like, really though? Really? Like nothing like digging down. Like how low do you got to go, CBC, to try to find someone that you can put forth your rhetoric without you have to do so? Because that's how they do it. They don't want to be the ones themselves to put forth this kind of political rhetoric. So they find someone to use as a story like this to put forth that kind of political rhetoric themselves. Anyways, so why is this American nursing assistant counter-protested? Why this American nursing assistant counter-protested the lockdown protest? It was so crowded down there, says Pennsylvania's Yetta Timothy. No social distancing whatsoever. Really? Why were you there then? Anyways, this is April 23rd, 2020. So let me just pop this over here so you can hear it, folks. I'm going to have to stop it a couple times there. And
yeah, first of all, what compelled you to go out and respond to these anti-lockdown protesters?
I just wanted them to see and hear the other side of what's going on out there. I mean, a lot of them, they're not frontline workers, so they don't know and they don't see what we see on a daily basis. I really would have liked it to been a lot more people there with us, but it wasn't. But, you know, it is what it is. Whoever came out, you know, I'm grateful for that. It's just way too soon for us to open up, you know, the state of PA right now. We're still struggling. I mean, our numbers are still going up daily. I just don't understand why people don't understand and see that it's just not time.
Can you describe the scene when the protest took place and when you went out? What did you see? What were people doing? What were they saying?
Oh man, I mean, it was so crowded down there. It was so many people standing side by side, no social distancing whatsoever. Most of them no mask on. Cars beeping and a lot of them yelling up.
So think about it. So she goes out there to protest. She's so concerned, right? But what does she do? Rather than stay safely in her home, in the comfort of her home, where she's protected from all these people. What does she choose to do? She goes out there and she's obviously recognized that she sees all these people that she says that they're not social distancing, they're not wearing masks, right? So they're placing people in vulnerable positions, according to this woman. And what does she do? She goes there. What the? Like, this is the kind of insanity. Like, to me, it's a real simple thing. If you're using just a little tiny bit of common sense or logic, is if you're worried about yourself or anyone else that's vulnerable, then you self-isolate. You protect yourself. Don't rely on these people that are out there protesting to protect you. That's called personal responsibility. But once again, how many times did we come to learn, especially in recent decades and in particular recent years, that personal responsibility has definitely gone by the wayside. Why? Because people have become so reliant and dependent on government, big government, mommy or daddy, to take care of them, that they don't feel like they have to do anything to be personally responsible anymore. And this woman is basically owning up to that without probably acknowledging or recognizing such, right?
Obscenities, about our signs that we had up, go home, or you're endangering my life. That's what we would have, the signs we had up, and they'd say, well, you're in your own life. You go home. They would just.
Yeah. So she's even saying, she was holding up a sign saying, go home. You're endangering my life. And of course, right? How can someone say that without realizing how fucking ridiculous they are? Well, like I say, and the world's chock full of them, folks. They're everywhere, right? Right? But yeah, of course, someone said, because any common sense person, anyone with like I say, I'm not picking IQ levels here, but it don't require, a huge amount of intellectual capacity to figure out, well, wait a minute. How about you go home? You're the one that seems to be worried about protecting yourself from the virus, so you should be the one going home. Like, I just can't believe the insanity of these people and the willingness of CBC to make this a story, right? To make this a story. I don't know, like, unbelievable, CBC.
It was just unreal, the sight, and how many people were standing so close, like literally arm in arm.
You just what?
I broke down at one point because they don't understand how dangerous this really is.
What did they say? How did they respond to you?
Some that were keeping quiet to themselves, that were walking past, were literally whispering, in our ears, thank you for what you're doing. But it was kind of like they were afraid to say it out loud, or like to be there with us and for us. So they would just literally walk past and whisper. Others, they were just yelling obscenities, it's our lives, our bodies. You got a job, you go to work every day. Why can't we? Things of that nature.
And apparently this woman actually sounds like the people that are protesting are quite reasonable, right? Wait a minute, you got a job, right? How about us? I don't have a job. I gotta feed my family too. What? But yet, like to say, like, just unbelievable. Anyways, let's listen to the next question here.
They clearly don't believe, or they say they don't believe, that there's any need for the stay-at-home orders. What's the situation right now in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania? What could you tell them about, if they would listen to what you're dealing with inside the hospital?
Well, there's absolutely a need for this stay-at-home order, and it does need to be extended. We cannot open right now at this point. Well, first of all, I've been out of work since the 26th of February because I had surgery. I literally went back the day that we had the protest. I picked up a double shift through the agency. But the facility that I have been working with for 21 years was just on the news. 18 people so far tested positive for the COVID-19, and that's residents. We have 4 staff members who had tested. Just yesterday, my daughter, and this is what's really upsetting to me. My daughter also works at the place that I've been at for 21 years.
Well, it sounds like these people that work in this facility that this woman's been working at for 21 years, looks like they're the ones that are possibly putting people in jeopardy because they've contacted the virus themselves. And I would suggest, or I would hope, based on the way this woman's talking, that they were taking all the necessary precautions, to prevent them from contacting that virus, but it didn't even work for them. But yet this woman wants to go out and place herself in this. Like I say. Anyways, folks, I'll just put this back. And yeah, I don't want to play the thing in its entirety. It's just kind of ridiculous, folks. But anyway, like I say, it's just unbelievable how these people are just willing to talk so ridiculous. And our media outlet, I don't claim the CBC as my own, even though I'm forced to pay for it. As if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. But anyways, Canada's national broadcaster is so concerned with putting forth this kind of political rhetoric, right? And laying political cover for Trudeau, because Trudeau was out there, members said, no, we're going to have to do this for a long time. And we're going to have to keep you locked down until we find a vaccine, right? So this is CBC out in front trying to lay political cover by using this woman that obviously is just a walking, talking contradiction, right? This is how desperate the hacks at the CBC are to lay political cover for Trudeau, that they would go with a story such as this. And once again, no pushback. No, you can listen to the entire, 7 minutes and 8 seconds of this audio. Does she give a voice to any of the protesters? Right? Nope, not one bit. Like I said, just a one-sided, fully biased, opinionated hit piece on anyone that dares to stand for the liberties, right? That's what the CBC is all about these days. Well, it has been for quite a while, but anyways, so there's that. Let me get back to the stream, because like I said, I just wanted to cover that. I found that when I was listening. It's like, are you serious? Are you serious? Hey, I got a question for you, AI Gaming. Canadians have $2,000 a month in Americans. First of all, are you Canadian or American? Because in Canada, actually, that $1,200 US. Actually, let me just check it out. Actually, just for the here. There we go. I'm just curious because yeah, that would be pretty. Okay, let's see. There we go. So, let's do it this way. 1,200. And was it 1,200 or 1,250? I forget. What is it? 1,200. Okay. So just to let you know, and the Canadian dollar is still ticking downwards. But even at this current exchange rate, that $1,200 US is equivalent to $1,692. So $1,700 American. Canadian. So, and that's taken into account too, right? It's the thing. If you're going to do these kind of calculations, and I love me some math. Don't get me wrong, AI Gaming. I'm a big fan of math. It's one of my greatest subjects, and in school, actually, when I was growing up, was math. But so if you take that 1,200, right, American, convert that into Canadian dollars, you have $1,700 worth of Canadian dollars to go out and buy. Now, even though that's $300 less than the 2,000 that Canadians are getting, let's take into account the price differences, right? Because the price differences of stuff, massively more expensive than American. Hey, let's just talk gas prices alone. Even though gas prices in Canada are definitely getting down there, no doubt. I mean, on the East Coast, they're down around 70 some cents a liter. But in the US, a couple of the people I was talking to in some of the states, because they vary obviously, but some of the states are down there and you're getting a gallon for basically $1. So 25 cents a liter. So that $1,200, like, that's what I mean. You got to talk about how much can you spread that $1,200 around in your economy based on the cost of everything. And I'll tell you, you definitely don't want to use it for your housing costs in this country, because the housing costs in Canada, compared to even some of the major cities like New York or Los Angeles in the US, is massively overvalued. So like I say, if you put that into perspective, that $1,200 US is probably actually gives you more purchasing power in terms of what you can buy in the United States than the $2,000 and what you can buy or purchase in Canada. And without even just using the number crunching aspect of that, which is, pretty easy to do. Actually, that's the easiest part, is I would just point out both examples are completely and wholly immoral, because all they're doing is taken from the younger generations who are too young and naive and don't realize just who's going to pay for all that at the end of the day. Because, like I say, no one in the education system, the political class, the media class, no one is educating the younger people in Canada today. I know this first and foremost because my sons talking to, like, I have 2 millennial age sons, and most people are just completely ignorant to all this stuff. But all this money, it's just, first of all, it has 2 effects. It's inflation. Learn about monetary supply and monetary policy by way of central banks, and you'll get up speed in terms of how that inflation works. That's basically a stealth tax. So that's going to be spread as pain across all Canadians or Americans, depending on which country you live in. But in addition to that, because you got to remember, there's interest rates on all these debts and deficits that governments are incurring, even if they are low, to make up for all that extra incurred cost. Like I say, all these debts are being placed on the proverbial extended credit card, which means the younger generations, all Canadians will get the benefit of all this, or a lot of people will. Although a lot of the people that are getting these benefits are actually government workers, right? A lot of older government workers, right? But it's the young people or the unborn at this point in time who's going to have to pay all this in terms of future taxation, or try to pay off all those debts and deficits, right? To keep Canada's credit rating, right? Either that or you destroy your entire currency, or go through entire bankruptcies, which, yeah, that causes a lot of economic pain too, right? So, like I said, all of this stuff, printing money to stimulate or create some false sense of a bailout now, it's just like if you had 10 credit cards all maxed to the limit, and you could manage to convince 11th institution to give you another credit card with another high limit. Well, you'll get that, you'll be able to spend as long as that credit card, that new credit card, until you max out that limit, you'll be able to go on another spending spree. And you'll be like, while you're doing, you're like, yeah, everything's okay. Woohoo. Yeah, might as well go and buy that other big screen TV. Yeah, I don't need it, but why not? Got the money now. But eventually, like I say, you max out that credit card, and now you've got not just 10 credit cards that are maxed out, but now you got 11 credit cards maxed out. So, like I say, the pain's going to come a little later down the road, but it's going to come. The difference is the older folks are kind of laughing at the younger folks right now, because they're not going to be here to pay for it, right? And especially all the boomers that are going off into retirement, or a substantial portion who already have, and they're in retirement and their pension. Yeah, they're not going to be garnishing no pensions to pay off the debt. So no, that's going to be incurred on the younger people. And seeing as how your name is AI Gaming, I would suspect you probably are a younger person. So yeah, these costs, it's going to be thrust on you and the rest of your peeps, which is why I'm against this stuff entirely, because I have 2 sons myself, and I don't want them to be economically enslaved to pay for these goddamn Ponzi schemes, or these forced wealth and income redistributive schemes. Yeah, I see Germany. Well, I see Germany. Listen, all these countries are eventually, like I say, the people will get restless. It's just going to happen, especially as the warmer weather gets here. So you're going to see a lot of pivoting, a lot of changing, and there's going to be new outbreaks because panic will set in and people will have to ramp up the speed. They're saying they're going to do it all nice and slowly and gradually. Like I say, sounds good as in terms of a hypothetical. Let's see how it actually plays out in the real world. Because I live in the real world, not like these politicians who seem to constantly open up these, I don't know, fictional books and just dive right in them so much they feel like they're living in them, right? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, they are giving us their own money at interest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're going to take a whole bunch from you. Well, right now it's like, just like the drug dealer. Here, I'll give you a little bit for free now, especially if you're a younger person and you haven't actually had to pay into the tax system for most of your life, because most young people haven't, right? We've all been there. We've all been young at one point in time in our life. But yeah, wait till you find out how much you're going to pay for that little bit you're getting on the back end. Trust me, you'll be begging and wishing that you never had to deal with that stuff before, because it's going to cost you dearly. Also discussed to hear the millions on Harrington Lake Cottage. Yeah, a particular interest was the new ski boat and water system, because the Trudeaus found it a little too soft. I say, hey, the ruling class, trust me, just like with Trudeau and Scherer, not practicing their social. Listen, rules, that's just for the serfs. What's this? Brittany from Global was ratting out folks who had sent pictures to Global. Wow, really? I don't know who that is, but that sounds pretty wild. Yes, lots of people are dying in lots of countries. That's just the reality. Lots of people are dying in lots of countries. And just like I said, if you're the kind of person that just wants to take a snapshot now and pretend that that's going to be representation of how everything's going to unfold from now until the end of this COVID-19 outbreak, go ahead. But you're the one that's going to keep yourself informed. You don't have to listen to anything I got to say. Like I say, you can form your own opinions, but there is such thing as right or wrong, and it will all be proven out, because I don't worry about just taking things as in a snapshot in the moment. It's like, I don't know if you folks remember some of the regular peeps that watch my videos. I made a post and I shared around, and it was got quite a bit of attention before, where it showed like sprinters. If you were racing on a sprint track, and if you, like I say, if you leave the entire picture of it, you would see that there's this person here, there's another person here, and then there was a whole bunch, was there 3 of them back here, right? But depending on how you want to frame that picture, so there was 5 people racing, and there was like first place, second place, third, fourth, and fifth, right? But depending on how you want to frame that picture, if you want to manipulate and suggest many different things, well, you can, because what you could do is just narrow in your focus on that frame. Instead of showing the person out front, just show the last 3. And you could actually frame that and say, well, look, this person must be out in front than the other 2. And in reality, you could honestly put that as a headline article, and you wouldn't even be lying. Matter of fact, the lawyer would say, yeah, no, that reads the requirements that you're not actually lying to the public. Again, the truth of the matter is no, they're in 3rd, 4th, or 5th place. You would have to zoom out a little bit more to see, oh, no, there was someone else up there in 1st place. Or you could take the 2nd place person that's really close to the finish line and then show the other 3 people, but be behind the one that's already crossed the finish line, that just barely though, and it would look like this person was going to win the race. But in reality, the race was already over. The winner had already won. But like I say, it's all about framing. And the people that like to play politics, which I'm talking about those in the media, which is where you're probably getting most of your information, because I'm pretty sure you're not an insider that's going around all these governments and looking through all these statistics yourself. You're probably being informed by those in the media, right? And what I'm saying is they're very good at propagandizing, tricking your mind, and how it is and how they do it is by how they frame the issue, or how they create the narrative, or how they spin the narrative. Like I say, these are all things that you'll come to learn, or most people hopefully will come to learn at some point in time, because political propaganda, it's so old and such a fail. Yeah, like I was checking that out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's right too. Yeah, it is taxable. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Spartan Chuckles. Yeah, because I forgot about that too. It's taxable. Now, I don't know if the US $1,200 is taxable, but like I said, I think I made a pretty good case already. And once again, I'm against both of them. I'm against any kind of forced wealth and income redistribution, because I'm actually wise enough to know there's no such thing as free anything, right? There's no such thing as free money, folks. No. Any bit of money out there, it's going to be paid for. Like I say, it's just that they're going to spread that pain around to a whole lot of people rather than just a couple. That's how they get away with that stuff, because rather than imposing all the costs on one person, if you spread that cost over millions of people, well, less chance of them complaining, right? Anyways, wow, I got a little far behind there. Sorry about that, folks. I got a little bit. Whoa, okay. AI gaming bullshit. I'm not even sure what the bullshit was all about here. I must have missed that. I'm way down so far. Hey, what's going on, Mr. G Rich? Nice to see you again in the chat. NPC Gaming. Droopy82. I love that Homer shirt. That's hilarious. That's a great profile picture. Loving it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened to AI gaming, if it was someone else that said something to him in the chat, but all I see is bullshit. I don't know. I can't scroll up anymore though, because it's preventing me from doing so. Okay, so Trump starting to close borders. You're racist. Dems now. You're not strict enough on China. You should have been stricter soon. I know that's the problem with leftists, is they just, well, I mean, they're so used to just espousing political rhetoric. And I remember even when I was a young man and was probably considered myself even more on the left side of the spectrum when I was a kid, because that tends to happen, right? But I remember, even when I think about now, some of the things I used to say, and I'll even admit, all I was doing myself, even at the time, was repeating shit I heard from, whether it's some pop idol, or like these leftists are like people that are supposed to be our thought leaders or opinion makers and stuff, or in leadership positions, or people that, you know, we look up to and stuff. But I remember, like, I think today's like, oh man, which is why I've tried to correct that and be much wiser and astute in terms of things. Because yeah, I never want to get caught as being someone that's just repeating a bunch of bullshit because I feel like I got to align with a political tribe. Now I like to think for myself. It seems like a much more adult thing to do, right? Common now, AI gaming, don't spam. Oh, well, yeah, you don't have to put a bunch of that. Like, I don't mind you saying bullshit or whatever. I got no problem with that. Absolutely. And even if you disagree, like I say, I have no problem with people that disagree, but yeah, don't get into that stuff, please. Actually, okay. No problem, Rika. I'm sure that I trust you anyways, Rika, whatever decision you make there, you do your thing. But like I say, one thing I will point out, like I say, I don't mind if people, especially if it's directed at me, like I don't want them like to start frigging with people in the chat, right? And because that's not good. But I mean, if they want to call me names, as long as, like I say, they're not advocating, like here's the main thing. Just like think about if you were talking about like in the US Constitution in terms of freedom of speech. I agree with freedom of speech. I'm basically a free speech absolutist, but the limitations that I even myself would say, because I have to function on these platforms that do, like it's me, I would be all for allowing a lot of things, but because I have to function on these platforms that can have a detriment to my channel if I don't follow through with some reasonable rules. And what I do find to be at least reasonable in terms of curtailing people's speech is when they do start advocating for violence, right? That kind of stuff. Or like using like things like such as calling people pedophiles, like stuff when you're getting into like, and we as human beings, as adults, we know like it's fairly simple for most decent common sense people to realize when someone stepped over the line. I'm not talking in terms of legality, obviously, right? Because I'm not going to be coming after them or anything, but in terms of what should be allowed in the chats. And mostly if they're advocating for violence or like getting real heavy into like the anti-Semitism or racism and stuff, like as much as normally, like I'd be like, you can talk all the stupid rhetoric you want, but I mean, if someone just wants to call me names and stuff, or like, I really don't, because that stuff just bounces right off me. So just to clarify things, like I say, and you do your thing. Hey, listen, there's a reason why I gave you moderator status, Rika, because I trust you with your judgment. So yeah, thanks for doing that anyways. Matter of fact, you could have even done just the short timeout thing if you want. But like I say, anyways, do your thing. Do your thing, Rika. Could you get rid of the Rika apparently already did it. So thanks for mentioning that. And I'm sorry, I'm so far behind now, obviously. I gotta sorry. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rich. I'm so far behind now. Orange Man Bad Syndrome is getting ridiculous. Oh, yeah. Oh, he had a bad old case of Trump derangement syndrome, which is, I get why a lot of them are. The shame of it is they listen to too much of that leftist media, right? And like I say, I'm not that I'm the hugest fan of Trump, but come on, like if you're going to throw out the rhetoric and disdain for Trump, like I'm with you, but can we at least be consistent and do that towards the other politicians, because none of them are doing a really great job in terms of defending or protecting our social or economic liberties these days. Come on, we all know that. Oh, okay, right on. Okay, cool, awesome. I just said that, and there you are. That's just like we're great minds think alike, huh? Breaking news: Ontario has a protest going on Queen's Park, Toronto. Oh, thanks for the heads up there, Evada. That I'll check that out as soon as I get done the stream. Like I said, I'm trying to get through a bunch of these chats before because I got a ton of thing I got to cover, but I always try to catch up on the stream. But as you folks know, I don't know, I go through every single one, making my Justin Treason sign. Right on, NLX Pat. Going to go through them quicker. AI was probably sent by his masters at Silicon Valley. I wish they would come on and have a chat with me. I could have invited, if he had still been here. Actually, if he comes back, I'll even mention to you AI gaming there. Hey, I'll bring you on and have a chat if you want. Right? Like I say, if you're just here to troll, you'll find that you'll be greatly disappointed, because you can't do nothing to us. We're people with a little bit thicker skin than you're probably used to or accustomed to. It's like, whatever. I know about someone spoke about the fact science instead of the alt-left feelings. Okay. Feelings, nothing. Feelings. Social justice wingnut feeling. God help us. Post millennial, no numbers yet. Okay, so check out the post millennial. Okay, so that if you go to the post millennial, according to eBiz, you'll be able to find out what's going on with that. What's this? Nice idea. Think I'll join you. Oh, cool. Right on. Well, I'm of the same mentality. Is I'm not a big fan of these vaccines, especially with like it's hard enough to trust anyone these days because we're constantly propagandized. That's the problem with the media and these politicians. It's their fucking fault that nobody trusts them, right? And whether it's if you're a doctor, listen, you should be really pissed off if you're a doctor or someone that's into creating these vaccines or any of these things because. Yeah, the media and the government of this country has made it so nobody trusts anybody anymore. And why? Because they're constantly manipulated and having facts distorted and having, false narratives presented to them on a regular basis, right? So that's a major issue. That is a huge, huge issue. Here's Saskatchewan. We were supposed to be lifting the quarantine slowly in 5 phases. They should have just lift the whole thing. Now, I agree there, Mr. G. Rich, but at the very least, Saskatchewan is getting out in front and doing something. Yes, Trump did say inject sanitizer. No, he did not say use Lysol or bleach. I heard all about that big thing with Trump. First of all, if you're listening to Trump in terms of medical advice or what to ingest, like, come on, man. Like, really though? I mean, if you are like maybe what's it called, that just the natural cycle of things, right? I don't know. That's anyways. Okay. I am locked down my own. I don't think it was okay. Trying to scroll down quite a bit here, folks. Baby boomer demographics mean there will be an increasingly disproportionate number of pneumonia deaths. Pneumonia comes primarily from influenza. Yeah, well, that's the thing with between boomers and whatever is left over in terms of the silent and the greatest generation. Like a lot of them are already have passed away, but there's still a substantial portion. That's the thing with modern medicine is generations in the past, might have died off, let's say in their 60s and 70s. Well, now people are living easily or quite readily now to at least their 80s and 90s and into their 100 plus years, right? So. And with the boomers, that huge, gigantic bulge now all heading towards their retirement years, right? I mean, think about it. Between the silent, the greatest, and the boomers, all, like I say, especially for the healthcare system, and especially these socialist healthcare systems that are massively inefficient, right? Have nothing that do with, like, that's the thing with these socialist healthcare systems is there's no way to actually figure out like budget or the bottom line because everything's let's just enslave or in debt future generations. But like I say, at some point in time, they're going to realize that the future generations are so broke that nobody's going to be able to pay for all this. So you got to stop. But like I said, they don't have the natural incentives that a market or the market signal. A market signal would send to any business owner. A market signal would tell you whether you should be doing what you're doing because the market would speak, and you would have to change or affect your business model to reflect the market demand. But because government functions absent of any market mechanism or signals, they're going to want, just like with this outbreak, they're going to get caught again with their pants down. And then like a lot of people, millions and millions and millions and millions of people that are already in vulnerable positions and timelines in their life are going to have to suffer some. And I like I say, I see the writing on the wall, and I feel bad for some of these people, especially the ones that still have their faith in government. It's like, wow, are they ever going to be disappointed at some point in time? And all I guess we'll be able to do is say, well, listen, tried to warn you. I tried to warn you for years and years. I tried to warn you, but you just didn't want to listen, right? Well, what can you do? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Just like with people, you can lead them to knowledge, but you can't make them think. Every day is a risk, whether you drive your car or face this virus. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, Tommy. Listen, every day, everything you do, walking down the stairs, go in the bathroom, you could jumping in the shower. You could, whoever was in there before might have, maybe the bottom of the shower got a little soap or shampoo on there and it didn't get down the drain and it's quite slippery. You could slip on it does happen, right? You could slip on the bathtub, knock your head on the tap, and boom, you're done. That's it. You're gonzo, right? So yeah, life is hazardous, folks. That's what it is. But most people in modern history, especially in the 19th century, 19th and early 20th century, most people come to realize that, yes, bad things are going to happen, but we never, never, never choose to sacrifice our liberties or our freedoms for some false sense of safety or security, because in the end, as was already coined the phrase, that everyone knows about, is in the end, you get none, right? So, but unfortunately, like I say, people just are going to have to relearn all these lessons over and over again. I want them to learn quicker so that we don't have to go through as much pain, but doesn't seem to be the case. If her life is on the line, she should stay home. Oh my God, I'm that far behind, am I, Rika? Holy crap. Yeah, I'm a half hour behind. Anyways, I got to get back to, sorry folks, but I got to get back to covering these articles. I'm going to end up, anyway, so like I say, so, what did we already deal with? So that was talk about, so that didn't even actually truly get, that was just that lady, but listen to this one. All right, let me share it. So getting more to like what this actual whole stream was about. Like I said, I enjoy talking or reading this comments so much that I sometimes, get a little behind with this. And like I say, but there's always tomorrow. There's always another day. But as you can see with this article, another one, of course, out of CBC News. This is, of course, on the radio too. And I did listen to it. Actually, I'm not entirely through it yet. I still have a couple minutes to listen, or about 10 minutes left to listen to it. But it is alluding to, as you can see, it's the House, the CBC radio program, the House. The immunity passes could be an interim measure on the way to reopening society, physician says. So immunity testing could get Canadians back to work, but it might come at a price. This was April 25th, 2020. Testing Canadians for immunity to the novel coronavirus and issuing passes to those immune to the disease could be a stepping stone to fully reopening the country's economy, an Ottawa area physician says. Dr. Kumanan Wilson, an innovation advisor at the Breer Research Institute, is leading a national effort to arm Canadians with digital proof that shows whether they have the ability to transmit COVID-19. We're going to have to have proof of immunity, Wilson told CBC Radio's The House. The best form of that will be an immunization. But as an interim measure, we're exploring the option of using natural immunity. Immunity is measured. Now, is this the one where I had something already highlighted? Okay, maybe not. I have another one. Anyways. Okay, I want to get down to, because like I say, I was listening to it in the audio portion. Oh, yeah. Wilson, who previously developed an app to like, that's the thing. It's like they not only bring in these people that promote this stuff, but this is someone that they're using to basically sell their own products. So CBC, CBC, just such a corrupt institution and organization. Well, I mean, come on, most of you folks know that already. Who previously developed an app to digitize vaccination records, is hoping to partner with the federal government to launch an identification system that shows who is protected once immunity tests become available. This is going to allow you to return to work or potentially enter a mass gathering like a sporting event or a rock concert. His proposal comes as a number of provinces work to ramp up their detection efforts, while others have announced plans to start easing restrictions put in place to limit the spread. But anyways, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau committed millions of dollars towards a new COVID-19 immunity task force Thursday, focused on developing testing and a vaccine. And as we know, Trudeau said, we're not letting up basically till there is a vaccine. So, I mean, if they're not letting up till there's a vaccine, does that not automatically allude or suggest that they're going to make vaccination mandatory? It sure does, as far as I'm concerned. And based on what this Wilson character, who has designed an app or developed an app to digitalize vaccine record, well, that means that testing means that they're going to be able to, if you've been tested, they're going to be able to keep that as a record. And then there's the other flip side of that is to track it. So the test will be like, well, if you've tested and you've met that you got your antibodies, all right, we'll let you leave your work, right? But that means you would have had to be tested. That means you don't get to leave your home until you've been tested, right? So it's going to be a big old incentive to basically force Canadians into being, because that's like, to them, they can try to play that gray area where, well, we're not forcing it per se, but if you need it to survive or to thrive or to have any kind of chance of leaving your home and not be in prison in your home for the rest of your life, then that is basically mandated, right? Same shit, different pile as far as I'm concerned, different stench. So we're talking now mandatory testing. And as Trudeau already alluded to, and it's kind of followed up and talked about in this CBC radio program, most likely, from what I gather, could possibly be mandated vaccine. And then there's the tracking issue as well, which I'm going to get to right now. So let me switch over to the next article. Actually, there's a couple of them. So as you can see, this is CBC Ottawa or politics. Ottawa pursuing technological approaches to COVID-19 contact tracing. So not just the testing, but the tracing, which is basically what they did in some of those authoritarian regimes in Asia, which is basically track everything you're going, everywhere you're going, everything you're doing, who you're coming in contact with, and what, and like it was pointed out by an actual civil liberties advocate, I think out of the BC Civil Liberties Association or the Canadian Civil Liberties. Anyways, I heard a lady talk about, because if you think about it, folks, the kind of information governments can get by tracking your movements, it's not just, that you went to the store. That means they know who you hang out with. That means they know, who your friends are. I mean, just by seeing patterns, right? It's very easy to get a big picture of a person's life and to invade in a lot of their privacy by having these kind of tracking applications to see where you're going. Now they can use the excuse that they're using it only for this purpose, but as we've known, every time big government implements a new tool, what are the chances of them ever putting that away and never using it again? Basically zero in terms of their track record so far. So keep that in mind, right? Other countries are launching apps. I'll see how they always go. Other people are doing it. Like, hey, there's people that are killing people right now. Are you going to use the excuse, well, other people are killing people, so we should, stop using these fucking bullshit goddamn, that's the thing with politics. These people are such a fail, and Catherine Tunney, major fail, okay? Other countries are launching apps to track where COVID-19 patients have visited. This was back on April 17th. Innovation Minister Navdeep Bain says the federal government is still trying to work out how Canada can use technology to fight COVID-19 through contact tracing, the critical public health measure of tracking people who may have been exposed to the virus. The practice involves finding those who have come in contact with individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19 and alerting them of the potential need for testing or self-isolation. Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, has called testing and contact tracing two key measures that need to be up and running before physical distancing restrictions can be eased. So once again, mandate based on what this is saying now, right? So listen, Trudeau said, got to have a vaccine. And like I say, they're all working for the federal Liberals. So they're all singing the same tune. And based on this one, Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, has called testing and contact tracing two key measures that need to be up and running before physical distancing restrictions can be eased. So once again, sounds like a lot of mandates to me, right? Tracking you, tracing you, testing you and tracking and tracing you, and potentially forcing a vaccine as well. So, and those are all seemingly going to be requirements just for you to gain back any semblance of autonomy or freedom to travel freely in this country. And that's still not going to have anything to do with fixing the economic pitfalls and destruction that has taken place. Crazy stuff, folks. Like I say, and just to reiterate, make sure that, it's not just a one-off article. I'll show that there's also this one as well. And like I say, all these articles will definitely be in the description of the stream below. No, that's not it. Hold on. I got to check and see. Let me close a couple of these up here, folks, because, they do get difficult after a while when you have so many things opened up. Okay, so this is the one right here, but it's basically the same story. But I just want, like I said, I just want to get all these on record here. OHP. So here we go. Oh, let me take this off. Sorry, folks. Okay. So once again, this is from Ottawa, CBC, OPH to develop digital contact tracing app. Mobile application would help track, notify those who may have been exposed to coronavirus. This was reported by Ryan Patrick Jones, April 21st, 2020. Ottawa Public Health is looking to develop a mobile app that would make it easier to track the movements of people with COVID-19, notify those who may have come into close contact with them. Ottawa's Board of Health passed a motion at its meeting on Monday, allowing OPH to look into the use of technology to support contact tracing, the crucial infection control strategy of tracking people who may have been exposed to the coronavirus. I mean, like I say, all these people that have been want to implement these kind of authoritarian tactics on the Canadian people, especially these leftists, they're just loving this stuff right now. They're just like, oh my God, everything. All of their wish lists are being completely fulfilled thanks to this coronavirus outbreak. Wow, right? As the number of COVID cases continues to increase, so does the possibility of community spread, said Vera Etches, Ottawa's medical officer of health. We need to look at automating some of the aspects of this process so we can reduce the time to trace the contacts and therefore optimize our efforts to contain the spread of the virus. When someone tests positive for COVID-19, contact tracers interview the infected person to determine. Oh, this is talking about, yeah, I remember seeing this. So right now, until they've implemented this strategy, this electronic strategy, now they're having to use people. But they're wanting to create this app, obviously, because they're going to make the case, well, it's just too difficult for us to do it manually. Like I am wholly against widespread blanket applications for tracing or tracking the entire population of Canada. And I don't care what kind of excuse or what kind of efficiency they're using as the pretense of excuse for doing so. So anyways, like I say, I'll share that one. It'll be shared in the description of the stream as well. Okay. Oh yeah, and this is just another one. It's just another one of the health section. It's basically about the same thing. Okay, so let's close that one. Yeah, this one. And I believe this is the one where I had it down at the bottom, because just for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with what Trudeau said, but like I say, just to make sure it's all on record, let's deal with it right now. The post-pandemic, that's the one, yeah. Okay, so as you can see, this one is the article, another CBC article under the politics section, analysis, the post-pandemic question. When this ends, how do we get our country back? The pandemic may crest in late spring, but other questions are starting to build up. This was reported by Aaron Wary, April 9th, 2020. Speaking to the nation for the 25th consecutive morning, today, Justin Trudeau officially introduced Canadians to the new normal, a prolonged period of uncertainty, economic sacrifice, and restrictions meant to at least limit the toll of a disease that might still kill thousands. Though we entered this new reality nearly a month ago, the depth and extent of it came fully into view this morning. Our relative success in navigating the new normal will be measured by how quickly we can return to something like the old normal and how much pain we might endure on the way to get there. Anyways, like I say, I don't really need to read too much of it because here it is right here, this section right here. The initial peak, the top of the curve, may be in late spring, with the end of the first wave in the summer, the Prime Minister said, referring to new national projections on the spread of COVID-19. There will likely be smaller outbreaks for a number of months after that. This will be the new normal until a vaccine is developed. So like there it is right there. Like I say, it's right there in black and white. He's basically saying that this is going to be the new normal until a vaccine is created. And as we're seeing time and time again, that the vaccine may very well be a year and a half out. And by sheer fact that they're saying you have to wait for the vaccine, obviously makes it sound like, and I would assume, and I think rightfully so, that Trudeau at this particular point is alluding to the fact that you're going to have to, it's going to be mandated that you have that vaccine in order to be allowed to travel freely or leave your house. So like I say, folks, and when you take that into consideration, even when they're projecting a year or a year and a half out, well, let me show you a little something else that might make that, even those who are slightly optimistic that within a year and a half, there can be a vaccine that comes to light or comes to the market, is, do we know this for sure? Nope. And according to some people, definitely not. It may never happen. So listen to this one. This is out of Australia news organization, news.com.australia. No vaccine for coronavirus, a possibility. An eminent Australian vaccine inventor says COVID-19 may never have a preventative vaccine, but could possibly burn out. This was reported by Candace Sutton, April 19th, 2020. One of Australia's most eminent vaccine developers says there may never be a vaccine against COVID-19 for some very good reasons. Professor Ian Fraser, the immunologist who co-invented the human papillomavirus HPV vaccine, which prevents cervical cancer, said a coronavirus vaccine was tricky. He told news.com that although 100 different teams around the world were testing for vaccines, medical scientists did not have a model on how to attack the virus. The professor of medicine at Queensland University, which is testing for its own COVID-19 vaccine, said immunization against coronavirus was similar to immunizing against the common cold. It is tricky. Vaccines for upper respiratory tract diseases, because the virus lands on the outside of you, Professor Fraser said. Because the virus lands on the outside. Oh. Think of us as a football with the skin and respiratory tract on the outside of the football, and the lungs are where the outside interfaces with the inside. The place where the virus lands is outside us, and it tries to infect the cells within us. Our immune system is inside of us. When it lands inside our lungs, it tries to infect our cells and succeeds. Our immune system goes to fight the virus, and that's why people get sick. If the immune system turns on too strong, it can cause damage to the lungs. The wrong vaccine could make things worse, so we have to be very selective about what part of the virus we want to attack. If you immunize someone with a vaccine, it goes inside and makes an immune response within you. What you want is an immune response to migrate out where the virus lands. There is no vaccine against the common cold. Professor Fraser said that with flu, the immune response inside a person's body didn't occur until the flu virus gets inside them. We've tried to deliver a vaccine to the lungs with the flu mist, which you snuffed up your nose, delivering the vaccine in the place where you need an immune response. But it didn't work terribly well, he said. And I mean, just by fact, like I say, I'm not particularly familiar with this person or whatever, but apparently he's a leading scientist in Australia, so he should be someone that knows what he's talking about. But I mean, basically, if you think about even just the common flu, I mean, there's vaccines every year. They come out with a vaccine, or I don't know about every year, I shouldn't say that, but there's always new flu vaccines that are released, on a yearly basis, or like I said, depending on how often that is. But how many times do you hear that they don't work or they're not effective? And that's just on the common flu, which they've had a tremendous amount more time in coming up with vaccines for, or to figure out, how the vaccines mutate, right? Because this is something completely new. So if they're already having issues to vaccinate against even existing flu strains, as this doctor, as this virologist or whatever is suggesting, is we may very well never get to the point where you actually have a truly effective vaccine that will help prevent anyone from contacting this virus going further. So Trudeau saying, we're going to have to remain, it's going to be the new normal until a vaccine. Well, what's that? What's that? Indefinitely, Trudeau? Is that what we're suggesting? We're all going to be stuck in our house indefinitely? Maybe you should be talking to some other experts around the world, because that doesn't sound like a very good strategy for anyone. Right? Even some of these people that like seeing people locked up in their house for a while, even they will get sick of it eventually. So like I said, I just wanted to cover that because I thought that was quite an interesting article. The very real fact that, a prominent scientist in Australia is suggesting that, hey, there may never be, or at least not for the foreseeable future, a vaccine that's actually going to be reliable enough to get that kind of herd immunity that they're suggesting, right? So anyways, like I say, folks, lots of stuff to cover, and I did get most of it in. So let's get back to the chat, because like I say, I always like to talk to the good, fine folks that show up in the chat here. Actually, let me get it way down to the bottom and then, oh, wait, what's this here? Sorry if I'm going to miss out on a bunch of the chats here, folks. I'm going to have to, though, just to try to get at least somewhat close to being caught up because, wow, I'm way behind the times here as far as getting caught up the chat. There we go. I'm way down the bottom here now. What's Mr. G Rich up to? If a big corp can get away with paying a foreign worker less than a Canadian and they go and the government will allow it, and that's what the corps do. Exactly. That's the thing with governments, they really are incentivizing. Well, like I say, mass immigration is great for voters for the left and laborers or inexpensive laborers to suppress the wages of Canadians for those on the right. So that's why the conservatives and the liberals, that's why I say they're the libcons. The libcon duopoly is very, very real because all about those are part and parcel of the connected or ruling class can benefit from mass immigration in many different ways, which is why they both support it, right? Sure, Scheer's not a big fan of the ones that will come here and vote for the liberals that see Trudeau as like, oh, Trudeau's this benevolent guy that came here and like said, oh, you come here, we'll accept you. And they'll vote for the liberals because they believe the liberals were the ones that wanted to bring them here and give them all these freebies, which meanwhile, the liberals aren't paying for it. And you won't see most people on the left side of the political spectrum who will be volunteer to pay for that because most lefties are not the ones that are charitable. It's right wingers are mostly charitable. But the left wingers love to force other people to pay for this stuff and pretend that they're benevolent in any way, right? But like I say, on the flip side of that, the conservatives are like, yeah, sure, some of them will probably vote for the liberals, but hey, a lot of them, will get me some votes because all the conservatives in this country will love me for the fact, and these big crony corporations that are run by a lot of these crony conservatives, these conservatives in name only, right? These keynotes or whatever you want to call them. The only thing conservative about them is the social conservative shit, but most of the time they just want to use, like I say, a lot of these cheap wage laborers from areas from different jurisdictions around the world is to keep suppressing the wages and keep, like I say, these corporate hacks filled with the people that'll work for much cheaper than the typical Canadian. That's why I have large substantial portions of the Canadian economy function under the minimum wage paradigm. They'd pay you less if they could, but minimum wage at least keeps a floor, but it does keep more and more people down around that floor, around that level. Like I say, wages have been suppressed, and I've covered this in the past too for at least 4+ decades. So you're never getting any increase. And actually, especially since the economic crash, actually it's getting even worse. The wealth divide is definitely a real thing, but it's a reflection of central bank and government policy, not by capitalism as some of these leftists would try to pretend, right? Okay. Patrick Brozo. What's this? I missed that. That's what Brett missing out. I'm missing out on lots of the combo here. Anyways, yeah, okay. Okay, it looks like most of you folks are kind of just talking amongst each other. That's good. Cool. Like I say, how am I at here? An hour and 28. I might tie this up at actually the hour and a half mark there if you folks don't mind, because like I say, I'll definitely be doing some more streaming. No doubt about that. But it would be nice to maybe tie this one up a little quicker today. I worked every summer in the Holland Marsh with lettuce, carrots, and onions, usually 60 hours a week. But many people today will not do that anymore. It was an honest day's work. Yeah. Right on, John Ziegelbauer. But anyways, folks, that's what I think I will do today is I'm going to tie this one up since we're at about the hour and a half mark. Might as well. And like I say, I did get all those articles covered that I wanted to get covered, which is obviously the most important aspect of it. And there's definitely a few other things. But like I say, I'm trying to go with kind of, motive or not motives. What's the word I'm looking for? Like themes, I'm trying to do stick with the things that kind of in a theme type manner. So I, stay consistent and I'm not all over the place more or less. Right. But there's definitely a lot more stuff to cover, but I think we got lots covered today. And like I say, I really appreciate everyone that showed up to the chat. I actually did have someone before I do tie this up, folks, just give me 1 second. because I did have someone from the PPC who reached out to me because of a post I had put where I'm just not happy with a lot of people in the PPC who have all seemingly abandoned me. Like I say, and this gentleman had saw my comment on the post and wanted to have a conversation with me, and I invited him onto a live stream. And if he doesn't, I'm checking right now to see if he's messaged me back. And if he hasn't, then it'll be, what did we finally agree on? If he doesn't, if he was actually having, he's the EDA, he's the EDA president for the Hants riding. That's Matthew Southall, a great guy, a PPC candidate for Hants County in Nova Scotia. And like I say, this gentleman reached out to me because he's the EDA president of the EDA for that riding, and he wanted to have a conversation with me. So if I don't see it here in the inbox, if he hasn't got back to me, that means it'll have to wait till, what did we agree to? I believe it was, now I'm going to have to go to the message. I believe it was Friday. So just to let you know, so that everyone at least has a heads up on that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So no, he has not replied as of yet. So yeah, he must be still busy with his, they were having some kind of conference call with PPC headquarters anyway. So he's probably still busy with that. So we'll end up having a conversation. It'll be on live stream on Friday at 2 p.m. That'll be 2 p.m. Atlantic time. So 3 p.m. Oh, wait a minute. No, sorry. 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Yeah, 2 p.m. Atlantic time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, that I'll be having the conversation. And his name is Mitchell Foley, like I say, the EDA, president of the EDA in that riding in Hants County in Nova Scotia. So anyways, like I say, I'll tie this up, folks, and we'll see you in the next stream. And like I say, you'll probably be interested if you want to watch that stream on Friday, because like I say, we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to try to ask or reach out and kind of get to the bottom of what did happen. I'm sure this person might not have all the knowledge as to why that case, but he said he wants to talk to me because he believes I'm one of the leading libertarian voice in Atlantic Canada, which I would say, yes, I am. And actually not just in Atlantic Canada, I would say in Canada as the entire country, I'm one of the leading voices in terms of libertarians. And like I say, I'm curious to talk to a PPC insider and maybe just to, have a discussion, figure out why is it? What was the reasoning? And is there anything that maybe some lessons have been learned and maybe people will start hating on me or ignoring or avoiding me and try to come together? Because like I say, we can't do this all together, folks. Anyway, so like I say, I'll tie this stream up. Everyone have themselves a great day. This is the Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.